Arena! Hey, Chris in the house with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and as you can see from my background here, we are with a thematic background based on the new champions that we're going to have on this month. One of them, the moon, it is going to be the fusion, and the sun, it is the partner of the fusion. Two interesting champions. I'm talking about Solenar, the sun, and Nodua, the moon. That is going to be our fusion. Nodua is going to be a fragment fusion that we're going to have next Monday, I think 9 of February, and it is going to be a really interesting champion. Look at these avatars. Look at these avatars. What a cool avatar they are. And look at their visuals. They are pretty interesting champions. The visual was well developed because they are based on the relation between sun and moon, and they are complementary. And you're gonna see from the kits, the most important part, how interesting the complementary part of their kits are, because they complete what each other needs. The mechanics fits a lot what one brings to another, and vice versa, which it is something really interesting. So let's go straight to it. Let's take a look at the kit of the champions. This is Nodua the Gloaming, the next fusion that we're going to have. Fragment fusion start on February 9th. As you can see, her design, it's based on the moon. She's like a knight of the moon or something like that. Dark elf, force affinity champion support with a really interesting kit. Let's take a look. A1 Shade Strike. At the A1, you have 75% of chance when booked of placing an Enfeeble debuff for 2 turns on a champion. 2 turns of Enfeeble. We know how strong that can be, how nullifying that can be to a nuker, and 75% is a very high chance for A1. So until they're very interesting. If the target is a boss, places 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns instead. Interesting because you cannot put Enfeeble on bosses. You cannot deny the boss's damage with Enfeeble. So instead of that, when you're facing bosses, the debuff she places with the A1 changes to a weaken, which is pretty much interesting because doesn't make an useless A1 when facing bosses. And this debuff cannot be resisted if Solanar the Gleaming is on the same team. It's her partner, the guy based on the sun, that we're going to take a look soon. So in general, really interesting A1 because you can take away a nuker from the battle, or even a debuffer, since you cannot land the debuffs most of the time if you are Enfeeble and you're only doing weak hits, which is pretty interesting. And it can be unresistible if you have Soulstone on the same team, which it is good because you don't have to have a lot of accuracy on your stats, so you don't need to lose a lot of stats going for accuracy if you're going to put her partner alongside her. We don't know yet if we're going to be able to get Solenar or if it is going to be a hard champion to get, since it is a void champion. Advancing that information, but let's see. A2 Umbral Purge has 100% of chance when fully booked, 3 turns cooldown, of removing all buffs from all enemies. Really good, this first part. This effect cannot be resisted if Solanart the Gleaming is on the same team. Even better. Then has 100% of chance of placing 60% decreased defense debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted if Solenar is on the same team. And if Solenar is on the same team, also places 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. So this is the skill that I think is one of the best skills on her kit, because it's going to fully remove the buffs from the all enemy team. It is going to put decreased defense, and if you have Solenar, these 2 effects are unresistible, and you're also going to put increased attack on your whole team. So it prepares the ground for your nuker go there and slay everybody. It's totally slay everybody. As you can notice, if she's a heavy support, Solenar is going to be a heavy nuker. So that's something interesting. It looks like a really useful skill that you can use for not using her as the fastest champion in the planet, but as a medium tier speedy champion to go in between the lines of buffs of your enemy to take away the buff that they just did. This kit looks like a really good kit to have in a champion with Supersonic or Stars of Jinang as a relic. So really interesting kit for a champion. Let's continue. Moonbloom's Blessing. Revive all dead allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. That's a huge revive. I think just by that is one of the best revives in the game. The downside is 4 turns cooldown when fully booked, but half turn meter, half HP is a very strong revive, If Solanar the Gleaming is on the same team and is dead, revives them with 100% turn meter. Oh gosh. So basically, you have the revive of the Sifi AoE with 100% turn meter. That's really strong. The same revive that we usually only have on single targets, that we have on Sifi, we have on Ancora, that we have on Raglin. A very powerful turn meter based revive that we only have on single targets most of the time. We now are going to be able to get for AoE perspective if you have Nodua and Solenar on the same team. That's a strong skill, and there is more. Places a shield buff on all allies equal to 30% of the champion max HP for 2 turns. Okay, so it gives some protective measures after reviving, which it is cool. In general, very useful kit. This faction doesn't have that many of revivers. I think the best one that we have is Blind Seer, which it is a void legendary. So this gives us a lot of opportunity, you know. This is a interesting fusion to have. The faction that she is, her kit is going to help a lot in many contents that it's faction only. And since interesting kit to have both for PvP and PvE in some occasions. Okay, this is a champion that is going to be able to put decrease defense and weaken and increase attack at the same time, gives you a revive. So in general, seems really good. And the passive, Scholar of Shadows. All turn meter few effects used by enemies are 30% less effective. Okay, this is really a champion to cut in between the lines of buffs of the enemy. If Solanar the Gleaming is on the same team, fuse this champion turn meter by 30% of the enemy's turn meter few effect. Okay, so she has the effect of the relic Stars of Jinang somehow on her. So she's going to cut in between enemy lines of buff if she have Solenar at her side. That's really good passive. Really good passive. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. This skill will not activate on duplicate copies of this champion. If this particular champion is dead, only counts turn meter fuse effect from skills. Okay. The last part is important because sets won't boost herself. Okay, so if enemies are going to get turn meter from relics and sets, it is not going to be affected by her passive, which it is a little bit annoying, but still strong passive to have. And the aura of increased ally accuracy in all battles by 70. In general, I think it is an interesting fusion. I don't think it is going to be a game-changing fusion. No, it's not the fusion that you're going to say, oh my god, if I don't have her, I won't be able to build this team. Probably not. Probably she's not that kind of fusion, but she's the kind of fusion that you want to have because of the amount of utility her kit brings and the partnership that you might have a good combo between the two of them. Both Nodua and Solenar, so we might have a good experience with both together if we're able to. For that, let's take a look at Solanar's kit. This is Solanar's kit. It is the partner of Nodua. As you can see, he's based on the sun. At the same time, she's based on the moon. She's a dark elf, he's a high elf. She represents the darkness. She's a free champion since he's a fusion. He's a void legendary, he represents the sun. So they are opposites. So let's take a look at his kit, because it seems like an incredibly strong nuker kit. A1 Solar Surge. Attack all enemies. This attack is always critical if Nodua it's on the same team. AoE, Void, A1, very powerful. And that's not over. Look at how strong this A1 looks. Second part of the A1 has a 60% of chance, when fully booked, 80% of chance of placing fatigue debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Well, if you don't remember, fatigue is that new debuff that after you make an action and you have fatigue, you're going to be put on sleep. So this is very, 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 very strong debuff to have as an AoE Void A1, because affinity won't be a problem, and he's going to be able to land this debuff on the entire enemy team, which it is pretty interesting. It's a crowd control debuff somehow, and there is a passive effect on this A1. Take a look at that. Has 100% of chance when fully booked to counterattack with this skill whenever an enemy gets an extra turn or has an instant turn effect activate. So he becomes somehow a counter to mechanics around Shuzan and champions like that gives you instant turn. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. This is a strong counterattack mechanic. And there's more. This second part, I think, is even more powerful than the first part of the passive, because it's going to proc a lot. Has 25%, 35% when fully booked to counterattack with this skill whenever an enemy has their turn meter increased. Wow, we need to test that. We need to test that, because doesn't say it only works once per skill or once per turn, because there are so many sources of increased turn meter nowadays. There are skills, there are blessings, there are masteries, there are relics, there are passives. So if every time a champion of the enemy team has one of these things triggering this counterattack, you might counterattack with this champion many ways in sequence, which is crazy powerful. Crazy powerful. As a mechanic to an A1, it is an insane amount of attacks that he might be able to do. But for that, to confirm that, we need to test him. Because the A1 by himself looks a pretty broken skill. And if you have that amount of counterattacks on it, it is going to be even more broken. Even more broken. So we need really to test this champion to see the extension of these counterattacks and how good this A1 hits. Because he's a nuker and everything's about the multiplier when you're talking about nukers. Nukers need to nuke. A2, Blazing Force. Attack one enemy. 3 turns cooldown when fully booked. This attack is always critical if Nodua is on the same team. Will ignore 10% of the target's defense for each buff on this champion. So if you have him heavily buffed, you're going to ignore a lot of defense. Okay, this looks like a heavy hitting skill since it is a single target. And there is more. This champion is immune to all debuffs while this skill is not on cooldown. So until you use your A2, you cannot suffer any debuff. This is extremely powerful to a champion. On this meta, for example, you can ignore strategies around bombs, strategies around poisons, strategies around crowd control. He is a massive threat when this skill is not on cooldown, because you only can be killed by damage. You know, that's crazy strong. And there is more. Whenever an enemy attempts to place a debuff on this champion while this skill is not on cooldown, this champion gains a random buff instead. Gosh. So you're immune to debuffs, and if people try to debuff you, instead of getting debuffed, you're going to get buffed. Bro. How strong is that mechanic? How strong is that mechanic? The only thing it is, you don't control the buffs that you're going to get, and this is going to be insane, because you can get a lot of buffs. A lot of buffs. This is something that can be overpowerful, you know, overpowered, and it looks like a really interesting skill. And that's not all. There's more. Unfettered Radiance, Day 3 of Solenar. Attack one enemy is another single target skill since he has a very powerful AoE A1. All the other skills on his kit are single target. Before attacking, he steals all buffs and 100% of turn meter from the target if they are not under Stone Skin buff. So, if you attacking someone that is not under Stone Skin, you're going to fully deplete the turn meter and steal that turn meter, and you're going to steal all buffs, which is going to make your A2 a lot stronger if you steal everything from your enemy. That's crazy. And this effect cannot be resisted. Oh gosh. No conditional. This effect is unresistible, so no conditional. No need for Nodua for this effect to be unresistible. That's crazy. This attack is always critical if Nodua is on the same team. And this attack will ignore Stone Skin buffs. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. It's a little bit ambiguous if the ignore Stone Skin is going to be by the effect of Nodua being the partner or not. Okay, but I think it is going to be always, he is going to ignore Stone Skin. So this is a skill that can be a meta skill since you're going through Stone Skin. Very powerful, and that's not all of this skill. This champion receives 75% less damage of an enemy on extra turns and instant turns while this skill is not on cooldown. Okay, so you're not going to die so easily from extra turns or instant turns of the enemies if this skill is not on cooldown. And while this skill is on cooldown, reduces the cooldown by 1 turn whenever an enemy receives an extra turn or has an instant turn on them or has the turn meter increased. Oh gosh, occurs once per turn. This is crazy. So if this skill is on cooldown, you're going to get your cooldown faster if your enemy gets any of these conditional extra turn, instant turn, or turn meter boost. And if that skill is not on cooldown, you become tankier against champions that gets these effects, the instant turn or the extra turn. This is a strong combination between passive and active effects of skills. This is really strong, and he has it on every single skill of his kit. On the A1 with the counter attacks, on the A2 with the ability of ignoring debuffs, and with the A3 of getting the cooldown faster and being more tankier. This is a hell of a kit. A hell of a kit. And we still need to read his passive. Scholar of Sun, passive. Whenever our enemy receives a healing, has 100% of chance to reduce the amount of healing received to 0. Okay, he totally nullifies any healing. This champion will receive that healing instead. So he does not only nullify, he steals the healing of the entire enemy team to himself. And look at that. If Nodua the Gloaming is on the same team, enemies will receive damage equal to the amount of healing instead. Do you guys notice how strong that is? Because we had reactive champions like Vulcanos that punishes the enemy team for any buff with the HP burn. We have champions like Nell that punishes passively the enemy team by any buff turn meter with poisons. And now we have Solenar, a champion that punishes the enemy team by healing. Not only that, he nullifies the healing, he steals the healing, and he converts this healing into damage. And we have pretty strong healers on the meta. We are talking about Galatir that is going to have the turn meter boost of the A2 somehow countered by Nodua, and the healing part of the skill countered by Solenar. Do you know how strong that is? Imagine a champion that it is like Marichka that heals an insane amount of HP. This champion can kill the entire team by the damage of the passive. This is such a strong kit. Such a strong kit, at least on paper. That's really strong. And there is more on the passive. Once per round, if this champion is dead, revive this champion with 100% HP and 100% turn meter when their last living ally is killed. Bro, he revives himself when all your team is wiped. Crazy, with 100% turn meter and 100% HP. Full. And he places a magma shield. buff on this champion for 2 turns. The value of the magma shield is equal to 300% of this champion max HP. So he only not revives with full HP and full ton meter. He revives with full HP, full ton meter, 3 times his HP on the magma shield that can reflect damage. And if Nodua is on the same team, this magma shield is protected. Oh my gosh. All of these with increased ally attack aura in all battles by 33%. My gosh. Solenar kit on paper is on another level. This champion is on another level. You know, everything on his kit is very complex. Everything on his kit brings a lot of utility. And everything on his kit looks extremely powerful. The only thing that we're missing to say this champion is almost an extremely strong champion is knowing how hard this champion is going to hit. Because he's a nuker. And if he's not a nuker that is able to do damage, everything loses a little bit of the shine. But it's hard to make the sun not shine, you know? Solenar represents the sun, so I think he's going to shine. And shine a lot. Oh gosh. Hopefully that champion is not a very heavy or very hard champion to get. But it is a void legendary. You know it's hard to get void legendaries usually. But in general, their combo look amazing. Their kits look amazing. And this is going to be interesting fusion. And if you happen to have the couple, prepare yourself. We're going to have one of the insanity combos between partners in the game. You know, Tara's Marichka level, Sifu Roto's level, Ancora Narcissus level, and any other partners that we have right now, Hilvi Tormin level. That's crazy. Solenar, the sun, and Nodua, the moon, are here on the game. We're going to have them next Monday, 9th of February. And hopefully that's going to be really fun to play with. Oh gosh, cannot wait to try to have them. I wouldn't skip this fusion if I was you. But if you choose to skip it, it is not something that I think is going to change your account. But if you happen to have the combo between these two, Solenar and Nodua, you might have a very, very strong combo in your hands. Okay, so if you enjoy this kind of content, Christian bringing the news, do not forget to hit the subscribe button, to like, and as always, remember, it's all about arena.